you're the only one that's going to be you forever. And that's great. And we want to see it. And I'd rather see that than anything else.
Yo, what's up? This is Toru, and in a way, so are you. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a music producer, artist, and entrepreneur. I make music for that space between the dance floor and the bedroom, which has been streamed millions of times and been licensed by brands big and small, including companies like Apple. I believe that regardless of what you produce, whether it be music, art, physical goods, or even spreadsheets, you have a process, whether you know it or not. To explore this further, I created the Producer Head podcast. Producer Head is a place to have conversations with other producers about their experience and process to share what works and what doesn't, to help each of us learn and improve our own processes along the way. Today's guest is Chenoa Tarin, a Brooklyn-based producer, vocalist, and songwriter whose sounds are an homage to the music that formed her. Chenoa Tarin also runs Bouquet, a monthly femme-forward artist showcase in Brooklyn with resident DJ Dewy 87. As you'll hear throughout this conversation, Chenoa believes deeply in self-expression and the importance of art. Throughout this conversation, we will discuss Chenoa's experience at SAE Institute, complementary career paths as a music producer, the importance of being competent and kind, what is technically correct versus what is true and authentic to you, Chenoa's experience and ideas for starting an event of your own wherever you are, and Chenoa tells us that you can do whatever you want forever. All right, without further ado, let's get into part 2 of this 2-part conversation with Chenoa Tarin. 2 things. One is the essence of what you're saying about part of this, to not take another person's success as your failure.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And
I think
that,
that's
I think is such
important.
a good lesson, right? It's to be happy for
very
people.
well said. Very eloquent.
Thank you.
I didn't say it like that. I roundabout said it.
No, and that's what I feel like that's what you're saying, and I think it's it's a real piece of wisdom, I think, because we see people around us, and especially in the context of social media, et cetera, we have an idea we create stories about what we think is going on in someone's life because of something that's really very surface level and is a small piece of the entire puzzle, but that can lead to people feeling really down about their own progress or their own art, and that is not necessary, and it is mostly, if not entirely, self-generated, right? So that is like a really important thing to be aware of. So I love that you brought that up. The second piece, what I've learned is you're just never really ready, is the way that I feel, right? Like you could always say, like, I could be more prepared to play a show, for instance. So I love the idea of pushing people to do it regardless of their level to get that experience. Also, in art and music, people just quit so early often. And it's because it is a challenging thing to get into. And so I think it's a really cool thing that you're doing to try to kind of lower the barrier to entry and to create like a positive experience to make it something that's fun. It doesn't have to be your career, but there is a lot of value in letting the creative piece of your life exist.
That's, exactly. Like, I do think that's super important because I think people get into this for the wrong reasons sometimes. They think that and I went to school for audio engineering. So I went to school to do this because I knew, I've known that this is what I wanted to do since I was a kid. I just absolutely was I want to do that. And I had a thing, I didn't really make music for a long time because I did the same thing where I also just kind of quit or whatever. I was just I don't get it. It's too hard. I can't afford classes. I don't know what to do. I took bass lessons for a little bit when I was young. I think I was 13. I was really young, and I was it's too hard, And when I was a kid, I had a pretty hard time as a kid. So it just was this is not I'm not going to be able to afford to do this probably for very long. And when you're not good at something immediately, it's hard to want to keep doing it when you're 13, I was just I don't know, I don't know what to do. And then I went to school for it, and I was one of 3 women in a class of 30 that graduated, and we started with 60 people and dropped to 30 people, and I was one of 3 women. So wow. Me and 2 others.
I think there are a lot of people too, in general, that think if they don't know where to start, and I just think it's also the way that we're kind of brought up, formal education kind of feels oh, well, if I'm going to do this, I should learn to do it the right way, potentially.
Yeah.
And so it's really cool that you went that route and saw that. And so maybe you can, wow, 50% of the class drops. So maybe you can share a little bit of your experience, like going to that education, about what it was like to help somebody. Maybe there's somebody listening that's like thinking about whether it's a full-time, long-term course versus, anything like that. It might be just cool to kind of pull back the curtain and share your experience a bit.
So what I was kind of getting at with going to school and getting into it for the wrong reasons was that I was going to school with all these kids that were like, and I was older. I went when I was 24. I started that course, and it was like vocational. I went to SAE Institute in New York. It was like in Chelsea. And it was a year or 2 years. I think I did it for 2. It was like a 2-year course, and you can get an audio engineering like certificate. And I cheated the whole time. Like, it was a very easy place to cheat. Like, everybody had the same modules, and if you knew somebody that was in like just a little bit before you, you could get all the tests and you could basically pass the course. It actually wasn't hard to pass. The information is just, it's a little bit overwhelming when you think that what you want to do is be a superstar, and that you're going to make hit after hit after hit. And that's not really how this works. And I think that, like, I had a hard time kind of connecting with a lot of people at school. I actually don't think I talked to anybody that I went to school with in those 2 years. And it was just because, like, I was one of 3 women, or like one of 2 other women, and they were cool, but they weren't like my best friends by any means, like it wasn't something that like really, we didn't connect like that, like as friends really. So, and then it was just all dudes. So it was hard to kind of form a lasting bond with a bunch of dudes that were kind of like, yeah, we're going to make hits and we're going to be billionaires. And it was like, that's not going to happen probably. And I kind of knew that already. And I was like, I just want to get into music. Like, if I have to choose something that gets me money, like if I have to choose a career, I want to be surrounded by music forever. Like, that's what I love to do, what I love to listen to, what I love to be around. Like, I just want to be in that. So I personally needed to go to school, because I think that for me, it was less about the classes and like the learning even. It was more about saying to myself, this is what I want to do, and I think that was kind of the thing for me. Like, I'm not a YouTube University person. It's hard for me to do. I have I think newly semi-diagnosed inattentive ADHD. So it's hard for me to sit and like watch a video that I'm not interacting with. So like, I needed it. But there are so many incredible producers who have learned that way, and the videos are getting good. Like, I can watch them now and feel a little bit better about it. Like, I was going to school in 2016 where I feel like the tutorials now are like, you can see the computer, like they're like on it like differently. And so I use it now to like learn new stuff or whatever. But it's just like, it's kind of what you feel within yourself to do. Like, I think that it wasn't that expensive in college terms. I think it was like $33,000 for the whole course, which is low in comparison to a 4-year college. And that's kind of why I did it, because I was like, I don't want to be in debt forever. And I got a job in audio. Like, I did get to use that degree. And I think there are other things that you can do. And one of the cool parts of the school was that they dabbled in everything. So it was like, there's video game like production stuff, like sound design for movies and for TV and for all kinds of other stuff. Like, if you're just into audio, going to a school that's going to tell you the different things you can do with it, like, you might find that you like something more than something else. So I think that my day job helps to keep me creative, because it's not really creative for me. And we get to do sound design sometimes, which is cool. But that's like the most fun I think that I have, is like being able to create and be creative. But a lot of it is like, I'm an assistant. So I kind of bring the session in for the person to do the mixing, to like actually do the work. And it helps with music still, because I'm still in audio. Like, I still get to learn mixing techniques that I can put into my music. I'm just around it. So I'm really grateful that I was able to like use it and do something kind of semi like boring during the day and then get to still do audio and like apply those things to something that I love later. And so it's like, it's all a balance. It's just like what makes sense to you. And there's just more than being a hit maker. Like, you don't have to do that. There's other things, you know?
So it sounds like it's really vast in terms of what it offers. Like it's not necessarily just being a music producer. And
that live sound, I did live sound for a long time with the karaoke stuff, and then I did live sound in venues too. So like I got to do other, like in my lifetime, I've done a lot of things since 2016 that are audio related that I wouldn't have been able to do had I not gone, you know? And like that, those are very different things. Being a live sound engineer and being a audio mixer in like an office, very different. And I was able to do both because I understood both because of school, because that's what they taught us to do. And you have a little piece of paper or whatever, they can be like, I don't know how to do that, you know? And like I barely know how to do it. I'm just kidding. I'm okay. But at the time, like when I graduated, I was like, oh, I like kind of know how to do this. You know, I learned enough to like get into an entry situation. But like producing is what kind of got me probably better at mixing audio at my current job. And I came from Apple, so I didn't even like, I had no idea about like advertising, the world of advertising and what like they did even, and I've just learned from doing it, you know. Some of these companies don't really necessarily need you to be an amazing mix engineer immediately. They want you to learn, and some people are willing to teach you, so it's cool.
Yeah, learning by doing. It sounds like it's a great experience for somebody who like is interested and like benefits from having structure. And
yeah, I need structure too, and that's very much like me personally. So it depends on you, I think.
What don't they teach you there?
How to be a hit maker. How to make the hits and make $1 billion. You're never gonna be taught that. That's like, I mean, like you could, and I'm not here to say that like you can't do it. You absolutely can. Anyone can do anything that they want. But if that's the only reason you're doing this, it's gonna kill you. Like it's gonna like suck your soul out forever, because it's just gonna be this like you have to love it, I think, to do this in a way that is sustainable, you know, because sustainability is like a big part of what I think about a lot with music, is that like I want to do this forever. Like I do want to make music until I die. Like that is super important. And if you think that it comes with this like fame aspect, I just feel like you're gonna be chasing that for a long time probably. And I think like consistency is definitely key. Like maybe you will, and I'm sure you will meet people, and I'm sure that like if you're in your room every day making 8 beats a day, like you're gonna meet somebody at some point. But if you're an asshole, maybe you won't. You know what I mean? Like that's the other part. Like what I was saying earlier, like if you're just like, I can't believe, I'm so mad that everybody else is making things and I'm just pissed, like it's gonna be a reoccurring cycle, and like vibrating at that frequency is not going to help you. You know what I mean? And I think like people do get angry, and it's like, that's not good. This should be something that is like a release of feeling and emotion and who you are. Like I want to hear that. I'm more interested in hearing that personally.
Yeah, what I hear is basically like learning to balance competency and like kindness and a care for community, right? Because if you are in some way, if there was a way to define this, if you are the most gifted or talented producer that exists, but you're somebody who nobody can stand to be around, it's not really going to work out for you. At the other end, everybody could love you, but if you're completely incompetent, it's going to be tough to make progress also. You know?
For sure.
So it's an interesting kind of balance between those things, you know, and trying to find a way to, because sometimes I feel like they're kind of opposed, you know. To practice and get better, you have to spend some time alone, and that kind of takes away from your ability to develop relationships and enjoy company with other people and build community. Is that something that you feel like you struggle with at all, or that you've learned to manage in any kind of way?
It's so interesting. It's just interesting because I've talked to so many producers about, like, they're pretty solitary people a lot of the time. You know, we're pretty nervous and pretty stressed out, I feel like, as a people. And I think that it's like a lot of uncertainty, and that's where we kind of get that energy of, like, that's why I think we're good at this sometimes, is that we're able to put that somewhere. I think a lot of us need to put it somewhere. And I think that it's also, like, okay. It's also totally fine to do that. And I think that not everybody needs to start a show. It's hard. It is hard. But it was something that I think I felt maybe equipped to do because of the live sound, because of all these other aspects that I was like, you know, and you don't have to do that either. Like, you don't have to know all these things to start or to do something like this. Like, you can learn. There are plenty of people that, like, know enough that can help. My show is literally in a bar. Like, it's not in a venue. It's not, you know, it's in small bar in Brooklyn. Like, it's not there's no stage or anything. It's just like, we're just hanging out, making music. A lot of times people play spades. Like, and it's just like kind of friends hanging out. And I think that's an important part of, like, that safety. And I think that, like, again, because we're sort of anxious people, having a place that feels safe to, like, talk to other producers about what they're doing, or to be able to, like, actually have a real conversation with somebody after they perform is important too. And so, like, choosing a venue is super important when you start a show, because you have to figure out what exactly you're trying to do. And I think a bar made sense for what we were trying to do, because people are also very uncomfortable when they get off stage usually. It takes a second for people to, like, calm down because they put a lot of energy up there and they're very vulnerable. So it's like, you know, it takes a second. And I think it's kind of nice the way that we have it right now, where it's like they're actually on the same level. So it actually makes it a little bit easier sometimes to, like, talk to people that were on the same level as you when you were performing and after, you know? So even if they need to take a second, like, it's just more of like a hang vibe. So I think it just helps. It helps that sort of lonely feeling that you can have as a producer in your room doing just, like, learning and trying new things and whatever. It's just, I think that it's important to go out and to meet other people, because I think that, like, all the stuff that I'm saying is based on feelings that I've had, you know, even going back to, like the jealousy thing. I've absolutely been like, well, I didn't get to do that, you know, like, and it was a learning experience, and it's something where, like, now I just remind myself, like, it's okay. And it might hit you for a second. That's okay. But it's like, it's what you do with it that matters, you know? It's like, you can feel it. Absolutely. Everybody does. Everybody's gonna. We're all gonna feel like we wanted to do that thing, maybe, you know? Or it's when you start going into, like, oh, they don't deserve it. That's when it starts getting a little...
It's, like, one thing to be upset about not getting something that you think you want or deserve. It's another thing to be upset at somebody else for getting what they maybe want or deserve.
Right.
So,
and
yeah,
that's where the line is, where it's like, okay, let's, you know.
But, you know, and I appreciate, like, you know, just, like, the being candid and, like, honest about, you know, experiencing that, because it's how we learn. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
So I guess I'm kind of curious about, do you have any, maybe somebody listening is like, man, you know, maybe I will start something where I live. And
yeah,
is there anything,
please. When we hung out, because we got to hang out recently, somebody brought a person I didn't know who lived in DC, right?
Yeah, shout out to
And
Jay. Yeah.
I just reamed him about starting a show. I was like, you gotta do it. You gotta be the one. Like, it's so important. And that's the point. Like what I was saying earlier. Like, I want people to start their own shows. I want them to do that. I want them to know what it feels like to be in a good space, especially because, like, this is hard for people. Like, it's pretty solitary unless you're working with a bunch of people or like other artists or whatever. But sometimes that's hard to do too. Like, I actually struggle with that a lot because I don't feel like I have enough music out. So then I need to, like, I want to make more of my own music before I, like, work with other people, because then I'm just gonna have a bunch of stuff with other people, and then I'm not gonna have my own stuff, and then I'm not working on my stuff, and that's gonna be really hard. And so, like, it's so important to have a space to go, to be like, okay, I'm around other people that understand what I'm doing, and that aren't going to make me feel bad if I'm not able to do that yet. And form those bonds and relationships before maybe working with them. I think that like working with somebody is a pretty intimate thing sometimes. And not everybody like kind of works the same way or like gels the same way. And when you know somebody is like personality, I think it's a little bit easier to like work with them later. You know what I mean? Like there are definitely people that I know that I want to work with now. But again, I'm still even in like, I want to keep making my own stuff so that I can get better. Because I don't want to like work with somebody else and like, I'm not at my best or something, you know? And those are my insecurities. Those are things that like I struggle with. And that doesn't mean that I don't want to work with those people, and it's not hurting anybody. It's just like what feels right to you. What do you feel like you're ready to do? And it's just kind of, it's all everybody's like personal journeys. Like it's not going to be the same for everyone. There are people that immediately work with people, and that's like how, you know, I guess I kind of did too, but in a way. Yeah, but like you need kind of an OG. You need somebody to like, you do need somebody to help you along, I think, when you're starting. I think that's like, and that's where shows like Bouquet are where you're going to meet people that will be like, oh, I like you as a person. Come to my studio and we'll like, I'll teach you some stuff or whatever. Or just hang out. A lot of it is just watching people.
Some of what you just said makes me think about, you know, there's this sort of an understood kind of order in which things are supposed to kind of happen if you want to pursue music. In your example, I need to have this many songs before I'm ready. Which,
like, what? So, like, how many? You know. Right. So by the way, like, I understand that it's silly, and it's.
To be clear, I don't think it's silly. What I'm curious about is you use that kind of example where you were kind of frenetically like, I need to make more songs, but I want to do this show and I want to work with this person, but I got to go back and make more songs because I don't have the songs.
Yeah.
So do you notice when you get into that place where you're having those kinds of like rapid thoughts, is there something that you do when you to notice them? And then is there something that you do when you do notice them to help yourself move to a place that's more like helpful and less like maybe anxious?
Well, I'm a pretty anxious person in general, but honestly, sometimes I just feel it for a while. Sometimes I do feel pretty shitty about stuff for a while. And like, again, that's super okay. But it's also important to pick yourself back up and to kind of remember that this is all energy that you're creating, right? So, and I believe that music is energy. It's one of the coolest things in the world. Like, you cannot see it. And I think that's so insane. You know, like it's air. There's like, it's just energy. It's just vibration. That's all that's what we're hearing. And the way that we've been able to like hone that in is like insane to me and so awesome and so cool. And it just, I think like when I remind myself that that all of that is external, all of those things are external. It's all about kind of like a viewpoint or like a optics, like I don't have enough or whatever, but it's also, what do I feel actually good about doing right now? Like right now I'm actually going through some like health stuff, and I haven't been making music for like almost 2 months. And it makes me feel kind of bad sometimes, but I'm also really trying to make sure that I'm feeling like I'm in a place where I'm not overstressing myself out, feeling like I'm not doing enough, and I'm actually giving myself time to like heal and to like take time. And I think that when this is all over, I'm gonna go back because this is what I love to do. And it doesn't mean that because I didn't work for 2 months that I'll never work again, and that I didn't do enough and so I quit now, you know, like it's all a cycle. Like it's all energy. It's all what you put into it. What I would make right now probably would be hard. Like it'd be hard, and like it'd probably be hard to make. It'd probably be hard to focus on. It would be probably cool. Like I'm excited to come out of this and make some stuff, because I feel like sometimes it's like a processing thing, and sometimes you have to do it to process. So it just depends. Like there's no rhyme or reason. There's no formula for it. It's all based on what you're feeling. And that's what music is anyways. It's all emotion based. Like I don't know how to actually play instruments like classically at all. I listen to something, I press a button of sorts of any type of like musical piece that I have, and if it feels right, that's it. Like that is right. I know it's right because it's evoking something. It feels like something to me. So it's all emotion based. It's all energy based. It's all what you put into it. And when you are sad and when you are happy, those things come through, and that comes through first. Like that authenticity is like really important. I think actually over editing gets to a point where you're now hearing the edit, you know, like you're starting to hear the uncertainty in the music. And sometimes you just got to go with your first kind of feeling. And I think we get wrapped up in what's technically correct. And I don't believe in that. I just don't think that matters.
Yeah, what do you say to people who are maybe feeling like, oh, I can't make music, or my music isn't valid because I don't play instruments, or I'm not an artist, or because I'm not making something every day, or I'm not posting something to social media every day?
Yeah, that's a struggle. That's a big struggle, the social media thing. I think it deters a lot of musicians, to be honest, to like feel like they're doing enough. I think that's the basis that everybody's looking at this point. It's like, how many followers do you have? How much does your music matter? Like, how much are people actually listening to it? And it's like, those Spotify numbers are just going to kick your ass. They're just going to stress you out. They're just going to make you sad sometimes. And like, they can be incredible. And you could have no idea that they're incredible because you are looking at somebody who's famous's numbers and you're like, well, I'm not there, you know? And it's like, it's good to have goals and it's good to have aspirations. Like, I would never ever say anything about that, even though I was joking about, you know, all these kids trying to make these beats, these hits. Like, that's their fucking dream. Like, I 100% do it. Like, I would never deter anyone from doing what they feel is right. You can do whatever you want, and like, it doesn't have to be good technically. It doesn't have to. My mom, when I was a kid, played her guitar out of tune, and that's what I listened to. That's what I grew up listening to, was an out-of-tune guitar. And I actually feel like that has made me hear things and hear melodies and hear different shit in music that people who listen to their parent who was classically trained would not hear. And I've been told that before. Like, the way that I decide where a note's going to be, it might not be correct. It might be a little bit flat. It might be a little bit wrong, but it's how I felt when I did it. So it is correct, you know, and it ends up being like more authentically myself, you know, than it would be otherwise, because it's literally like a manifestation of what I heard and who I was as a child, you know, coming out now. And no one can replicate that. You are uniquely you no matter what. And your influences and what you've listened to and what you care about and the music that you create is based on you. Even if you're copying somebody, you're still doing it. Like, it's still, you are copying it, but you're kind of going to copy it your own way. And most things are copied anyways, you know, like most music at this point, it's all the same. There's someone somewhere has made something similar, like, and it doesn't matter because it's the energy that you put into it that matters to me. It's not what the technicality is. It's not like what the chord change was. Like, it doesn't matter.
I feel like what you're saying is being correct to you is being true to yourself and the energy that you feel and that you're trying to create.
100%. Yes.
One last thing I want to ask you is, how do you think about, because it kind of came up in what you were just saying also, which it made me curious about the way that you think about comparison, you know, and how you experience that.
Mm-hmm. I think it's just natural. Like, it's going to happen. You're going to do it. You know, I think no matter what, we're all listening to other things. You know what I mean? We're all listening to things that are inspiring. But I think when you hear something that's inspiring and you take it as that, instead of like, oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, I'm not good enough to do that. Or, oh, I would have never thought about that, so I must not be good as an artist. Like, that's when it can be detrimental to, like, yourself, you know? And I think that if you're comparing yourself in that way, it's harder to keep going, and it's harder to, like, move into a more authentic space within yourself too, because you're going to start to want to do things like this specific person or whatever. And like, it's okay. Again, it's okay to copy a little bit or whatever. Like, you know, all jungle is like the same few breaks. Like, and it's just like whatever you do with it that is cool, and like that's all that matters. You know, like their genres are based on a formula of some sort. So, like, it's okay to compare it, but try to take it as an inspiration. Don't make it mean that you're not good. We all have moments of me and my partner will just be like, I tried to make a beat today and it was just ass. Like, we just had an ass time making beats. And like, that will happen a lot. You know, like sometimes you sit down and you're like, nah, I don't know, I wasn't ready for it. Or like, that's a big thing, like just not being ready for the beat. Sometimes you can leave and come back and you're like, holy shit, I hear something completely different in this that I did not hear before. Don't shut yourself off or like sell yourself short when you're having an ass day making a beat, because you can come back in like a week and it has a whole new meaning to you, you know? A very helpful book actually is the Rick Rubin book, which I'm sure he's divisive, but on some level. But the book was really helpful and it was really cool. The Creative Way of Being is what it's called. And it kind of breaks down some stuff in music and creativity and like in general. And it has a lot of, you don't have to agree with all of it and that's fine. But I don't feel like I agree with all of it, but it's just like to have something that's uplifting, that is helpful to the creative process is nice. So that helped me to kind of shut down some of those feelings of like, this isn't ready, or this isn't good enough, or this mix is like different, you know? It's like, whatever. Is it ready for you? Are you ready for it? Like, that's all that matters. No one's going to hear it unless you put it out. And you should, even if it's not ready. It's never going to be ready.
It's a good reminder. Crip talked about this a lot when he was on the show back, I think it's episode 3. But save everything, because even if you think it's trash, because you never know. Oh my God, people delete
stuff? Oh my God, I would never delete it. Don't delete anything.
So you heard it here. Like, hold on to everything, because you don't know what it's going to sound like the next time you pick it back up, you know, whether it's tomorrow or a year from now or whenever. And, you know, if you spend time putting it down, you just never know, you know?
Yeah. No.
And there is something to be said for just having spent the time to do it. I heard this quote like literally today, which I really liked. So I'm going to kind of botch it. It's not verbatim, but the idea is essentially that anybody who has a lot of good ideas if they're being honest, will tell you that they have like 10x bad ideas, because you spend all the time getting to the good ones through all of that time you're willing to put in, going through the stuff that you don't like as much. So people that have less good ideas may have less bad ideas, but they have way less good ideas.
Yeah. Also, it even if there are definitely beats that I have that I will go back to and be like, this is still ass, and it probably always will be. But you know what's really awesome with those is that you can see your progress. So even if it's like, if you delete it forever and it's gone forever, it's like you won't even have those moments of being able to go back and be like, wow, I've come so far. Like, I would never do that now. You know what I mean? And it's like that. I think those reminders are another thing that, like, you're asking, like, how I kind of combat some of this stuff. And it's like, sometimes going back to some old shit and being like, whoa, this isn't good. is helpful, you know? So I'm like, I'm making crazier, cooler stuff now, and I'm excited about the stuff that I'm making, and like sometimes that can like reboot your excitement for what you're currently doing.
Rex literally just said essentially the same thing on the last episode, right? Which is like, if you're having a bad time, or you're, you know, listen to other, like if you're having a bad day, go back and listen to something you made and be like, oh yeah, wow, I can do this. You know, just remembering. And yeah, like your hard drive doesn't need to be your social media feed. You know what I mean? It's like your little marks on the doorway as you grow. All right, so before we drop into these quick hits, let me ask you, is there any project upcoming or existing that you'd like to highlight and share with people, as well as where you'd like people to go if they'd like to connect?
I released an EP called Thunderstorms in June. And actually Heartbeats, the ASAR's show, is putting out a compilation soon. I'm not sure what the date for that is either, but I will be a part of that compilation as well. And that was a fun track to make, so stay tuned for that. I also have one metal remix that I'm working on that should be coming out at some point soon as well. I don't have perfect dates for everything, but those are the things that are going on.
All the tracks on Thunderstorms in June, are you singing on those?
Yeah.
Wow.
And some of they're not every song is a vocal song, but all of it's produced.
Right, but if it's your voice,
and mixed,
if there's a voice,
written, mixed, and mastered by me, except
Wow.
for June was mixed and mastered by a friend of mine, but everything else was mixed.
Wow, yeah,
mastered,
nice work, dude.
Written, produced, all by myself.
Go bump Thunderstorms in June by Chenoa.
Yeah.
And anywhere you'd like to send people?
My website. I have a website. It's called www.chenoatarin.com. It's pretty cool. I also made it myself.
There you go.
It's nice to have a website. I don't know. Just get a domain name. They're like $12, and then you can just get a website maker.
Okay.
You can do anything you want. You can do whatever you want forever. It's cool. Don't like rely on social media for everything. There are other cool things. I'm also at Chenoa Tarin on everything too.
Yeah, everybody at Chenoa Tarin, CHENOATARIN. The website.
You
and
got that quick. Are you reading it? No, I'm just kidding.
May I have the language of origin, please? So, with that, let's jump into these quick hits.
Okay.
Which DAW do you use?
I use Ableton.
Boom. Go-to sound or instrument?
I have one synthesizer that I own, and it is the Korg Minilog XD.
Go-to plugin?
I like it a lot. Go-to plugin. Recently, I have been really excited about... I don't remember what it's called, which is really annoying. Oh, I like arpeggiators.
Okay.
I don't know if I have like a specific one. I use like the stock fucking Ableton one, and it's sick. Stock Ableton plugins are goated. I'll use them forever. They're awesome. I don't fucking need shit. I don't need all this fancy bullshit. We have so many plugins at work, like at my job, because it's literally a mixing place. And I use them. I totally do. And there are some really cool ones. And I don't find that plugins make anything like so much better or worse than anything else. Like, it's really, mixing is so like objective or subjective. The one where it's for you. It's so for you. Like, whatever you want. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, nothing is technically correct. It doesn't matter. So there are things that like say that they're gonna, like, I feel like the plugins are always like, we're gonna give you the best version of this thing, and it's like, I use stock Ableton plugins. That's what I use. That's what my answer is.
I love to hear it. I agree. Ableton plugins are, you know, just they're
incredible.
CPU usage. It's impressive.
Yeah, even like simpler. Fucking sick. What? I don't need anything else. What do you want? Maybe Serato Sample. Serato Sample's cool.
It is actually, yeah.
They're cool. They're cool people too. So I'll plug Serato Sample.
Favorite piece of gear?
Oh, is that not what you asked me earlier? Instrument. So the gear, my favorite piece of gear is this mini log XT. But you're saying what my favorite instrument was earlier?
I guess you could say the question could be, it's a little bit, sometimes people, it depends on like the way that you make music, sometimes it kind of works to be separate, but in your case it sounds like maybe it's a repeat answer. Yeah, sure. I love bass, so like bass sounds, Reese bass sounds, off of this little mini log XT. That's what I use a lot. 3 producers you think everybody could listen to, benefit from listening to.
Oh, jeez.
Can't use Madlib, Dilla, Nujabes.
Those are yours? Is that what you said?
I'm saying you can't use those people.
Oh, I can't use those people. That's really funny. No, Nothing New is one. He was on your podcast. He's great.
Shout to Nothing New. Episode 9 if you haven't heard it.
Who else? Asar is another one. You heard his song earlier. Wonderful producer. Who else? Do I know anybody? I feel like it's all going to be my friends. Ooh, Posibel. Posibel's incredible. Check her out.
3 favorite albums.
Oh, all right. Don't do this to me. Probably. I don't think I'm going to have an answer for this. I think it would take me too long. I don't think I like too much music. This is going to stress me out. This is like the song choice. I like too much. Paramore is a big Paramore album. One of them. Any of them. They're all great. Probably. I guess I could do my favorite ones right now, but we kind of listen to songs from them, so it doesn't really matter. Listen to whatever you love.
You heard it here. Someone else.
Say that again?
Someone else you think I should talk to on this podcast?
Oh. Posy would be great. Asar would also be great. 2 people that I talked to you about already. Just Milk. She's a producer. She's pretty cool. Say Word Stars is another one. Is this too many? Where are my ladies at? I'll send you a list of ladies. 16 is a producer. And Vicky Cases. And Brown Jewel. Sorry, there's a lot.
What character from a book, movie, or show do you most identify with?
Ooh. Wow, I have an answer for this. I never thought I would. That seems like a crazy thing for me to think. Spike from Cowboy Bebop.
I think that was Medic's answer too.
Shut the fuck up. No, it wasn't. Don't lie to me. Really?
I think so. Yeah.
I pulled that out of my ass just now. I mean, it's totally true, but it just popped in so fast. And I was like, that is so correct.
Well, cool. If you were to do one thing that would break the internet, what would it be?
I hope spread some kind of joy in some way, whether it's silly and fun or just creates a good space.
Yeah, that's wholesome
what I'm
and
about.
heartwarming. We love to see that.
It is.
Well, we've made it to the end. Is there anything else that you'd like to share or say to the people listening?
No. I mean, be yourself. Do what you love. Don't let people fucking tell you not to do shit. Don't let people bother you into not doing shit. And don't compare yourself to anybody else, because you're the only one that's going to be you forever. And that's great. And we want to see it. And I'd rather see that than anything else. And also, thank you so much. This was a pleasure. It was a pleasure meeting in real life. I'm glad we got to meet in real life before we did this too. It's very chill vibes.
Yeah, no, I had a great time in New York.
Appreciate it.
That was a great trip. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I had a great time too. And I mean, thank you so much for being here on the show.
Of course.
Your optimism, your expansive and inclusive attitude, the way that you try to empower people around you, it's a beautiful thing. Please continue to do it. And everybody listening, take a little bit of that with you as well. This concludes another episode of Producer Head. This has been Toru, and in a way, so are you. Peace.
Thanks, bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Producer Head. If you enjoyed this episode, I invite you to drop a review and send this to a friend. It really helps Producer Head find its place and its people. Don't forget to head over to torubeat.substack.com and subscribe. This is where you'll be able to find an organized consolidation of each episode of Producer Head along with transcripts. You will also receive the bi-weekly podium, a top 3 curation of my favorite things found on and offline over the past week. It's a 2-minute read that provides you with a personal soundtrack, ideas, and practical inspiration that you can use immediately. So tap in and receive the bi-weekly podium, a top 3 personally curated by me for free. torubeat.substack.com and subscribe so that you don't miss any updates from me and or Producer Head. That's it for this episode of Producer Head. I appreciate you coming through and being a part of it. My hope is that it helps you unlock a bit more creativity and find progress in a way that matters to you. The theme music is one of my own songs. It is called Room to Breathe and available now on all streaming platforms. Again, for real, thank you so much for being here with me, and I look forward to catching you in the next episode of Producer Head. This has been Toru, and in a way, so are you. Peace.